on our communities. Crime is it's receiving the opportunity to climb because something is not functioning. Somewhere in our homes, we are allowing ourselves to have no voicemail when we know what is going on. To have no eyes when we see what is taking place. And to have no ears when we hear it. Beside us, we hear the crying. We hear the little girl. We hear the man beating her. But it is not in my home. It's not, no, sir. So you, as my father say, you're blind, you're deaf, and you're dumb. This is how the cancer is flourishing. It's not the only reason. A big part of it too has been us as politicians, who we must be the thinking wheel for the country. Our responsibility over the years must be to develop the policies, to drive them, to think of new ways to ensure that we're using our assets in the best way. And since independence, I don't know that Jamaica can say that the politicians and leadership have done well when it comes down to facing crime and violence. Just as the communities have remained silent. And so we all have responsibility. You know, I said to my 8-year-old daughter, because she was asking me about foods. She's learning about the different foods in school. And I tried to get her to understand that just like eating food impacts how your body will grow and why you must eat yam and eat good foods instead of eating too much of the sweets. It is the same thing in relation to how we feed our mind and how we feed our soul. And Jamaica has been feeding on music that has caused us to become numb. We have been feeding on images over and over, night after night, to the point where I have to hide my children from the news. Unfortunately, it is also our reality. Because as an intellectual property attorney, I defend the freedom that allows persons to create their music. But I do know that we are going to bend that culture and bend what we're feeding on by having these kinds of discussions and by continuing in a positive way to motivate our communities, to make people aware, to make people know that if the cancer goes untreated, it will kill us. It will invade our organs. That is what the crime and violence has done. It has caused our economy to be stifled, tourism to be at risk, even education, because some of the children, superintendent, right, some of the kids in some communities are afraid to go to school. So when you hear people say it is like a cancer, tell them that the minister gave you a breakdown of it. But we have to think about how to solve it. And, you know, I'm speaking about cancer because I'm remembering my colleague Senator Longmore, who is battling cancer now. And I've never seen a woman with such strength. She calls me to ask me how I am doing. And she smiles. But I'm reminded of what she's going through in treating with this cancer and the fact that she has to now do surgery and radiation and chemotherapy and take medicines and rest and change her diet. She has to do all of these things to treat this cancer. And that is just what Jamaica is having to do. Superintendent Cameron needs more cars and he needs more guns. But that alone won't treat the cancer. Am I correct? Yeah. Because just like the cancer in our body, surgery alone won't solve it. Because we know that it will grow back. And so at the Ministry of National Security, our goal is to understand the root causes of this crime and violence. And to see how we can invest our time and our energy and our money into treating with the cancer at the root. Finding a way to let Jamaica have a better way of living. Too many of our children in school but not learning anything. Graduating from school but they're not in a position to graduate on to employment. Too many of our youngsters are having to confront on a daily basis a poisonous environment. And so you know that for me, my responsibility is in particular with the youngsters who are incarcerated and with the men and women who are in the correctional institutions, what we call prisons. And almost every week I have somebody call me or message me on Facebook and quarrel with me. Minister, you waste money upon prisoner. Minister, I don't have money to go to school. You want to send prisoner to school. Me see you in Christmas, I give prisoner care package. Waste of time. I understand how you feel. I have been held up. My car has been stolen. A gun has been put to my head. Shots. I remember driving after throw my sister head into the bonnet. Pop, pop, pop. So don't think that I haven't been a victim. But give thanks for parents and grandparents who teach you. And for the word. And for understanding that fighting fire with fire only creates more fire. So as we focus on the operational strategies, and I won't go into it because I think that Superintendent Cameron did a superb job. I want to focus on those social interventions, the changing of the mindset to let people know why we need to build up even those who don't deserve it. Because if we don't, they will be coming out anyway and coming for you. So let us be smart, not soft. Let us be smart. I spend a lot of time focusing on the We Transform program that we have developed. And our main goal is to reduce the recidivism rate, to ensure that those youngsters that have offended, those persons who have done wrong and have been caught, that we don't have a revolving door. And we're doing the same thing with the CSJP, which is the Citizenship, Security and Justice Program, with youngsters who are not convicted, but who are vulnerable and at risk. Because I tell you this, just as in treating cancer, you have to use all of these variables, all of these modalities, all different types of treatment, medicine, radiation, surgery, it's the same thing we have to do. The state of emergency, surgery. It is a more explosive tool which is being used, but it is only one of a suite of tools that the government is employing. And the question then will always be, what can the Manchester Chamber of Commerce do to help us, to help yourself to fight this cancer? when we know any cancer treatment has a wide range of terrible side effects? Why do I say that? Mayor, I hear so many people on the radio, social media, and the commentary about the various efforts that are being made by the men and women of the Jamaica Constabulary Force is sometimes unnecessarily negative. I'm not saying we're perfect, because believe me, I do not hold back in making it very clear that we have a duty to raise the standard of professionalism. But I also think it is important that we acknowledge the kind of professional acumen that has been executed, particularly as we see that state of emergency in St. James. I walk the streets, and when I see youngsters running out to me to tell me that I want to be a police, I want to be a soldier, because never before have I felt this safe. So I want to say to the members of the JCF and the JDF, continue. Jamaica wants to encourage you to continue in the face of adversity, and you have the full support of this government. You would have heard yesterday we sat in the Standing Finance Committee, and many of you would see today in the newspaper that there has been a significant increase in the national security budget. That is this government saying to you, we're not just talking, this is time for action. And so we're going to put the money behind it so that we can give the hard-working members of the JCF, the JDF, the DCS, and all of the security apparatus a fighting chance. Now, with all the money in the world, and Jamaica must hear this loud and clear, with all the money in the world, we cannot solve crime alone. The police are, is it 11,000? 12,000 strong. Jamaica is 3 million. Do the math. I tell you, I'm a scientist, it goes down to numbers. And if you are to disaggregate the numbers of people in this country, you ask yourself, how many of the 3 million are criminals? How many are murderers? One man come in here with a gun, one little 38, and try to hold up all of us. And he will stick Jamaica as 3 million for 3 days if one of us don't stand up. I tell you, I'm a scientist, it goes down to numbers. And if you are to disaggregate the numbers of people in this country standing up, you ask yourself, how many of the 3 million are criminals? How many are murderers? We need for you, one man, all of the members here, all of the citizens of the parish, and try hold up all to bind together, not only in your action but in your utterances. I'm not asking people to shy away from speaking truth. What I'm asking you to do is to give the government and the Jamaica Constabulary Force and JDF and the members of the Fire Brigade and the members of the DCS and all who are fighting for you, give us a positive energy. Bind together. Words mean a lot. When you hear people speaking about the fact that Jamaica can never, Jamaica will never, you think that doesn't make an impact on a police officer? The same police officer who is up when you're sleeping and who is up when you're up. How about one of us, when we're walking today or driving today, stop and say to an officer, thank you. You know what difference it could make? We have to motivate and encourage, because we are battling something that is beyond human. I don't know if you're listening to me. What we're battling is decades of a decay of a system which has become dysfunctional and deficient. And for us to overcome it, it requires us as politicians to take certain risks, to do things differently, to set up a zone of special operation which has never been done, but to try it, and to ensure that we put in a social intervention part first time, but let's try it, because Jamaica deserves a new chance. But the people of this parish and across the country must play their part. You must understand how important it is for you to be a participant in a positive way. You would have heard President Green and members of the CCTV, and I'm sure Manchester Chamber of Commerce is aware of the efforts to use technology to help to fight crime. And I want to just highlight one more thing. There's been a lot of discussion about the NIDS, the National Identification Database System. I even heard one lady who asked me about it, who remarked whether or not I was going to put a chip in every baby. Change always creates some amount of fear, because change demands that you move from your current position. One of the primary responsibilities of any government is to maintain law and order. One of the significant difficulties, ask any officer in this room, ask any, well, you're all, most of your business entrepreneurs, you know, in order for you to be able to maximize your potential, you have to create a system of regulation, some order. How is it that we can have one man in Jamaica with over 1,000 traffic tickets? Why is it that in 2018 a man can be wanted in Montego Bay and be a member of the Manchester Chamber of Commerce and you don't even know? I'm not saying that that's so. I'm not saying it is not so, but I'm just kidding. But the fact is, we have to develop the framework, the system that gives us an opportunity to properly maintain law and order. And so insofar as this government is adamant in challenging ourselves and challenging the country to move forward, we are trying to implement new measures, but because we want positive outcomes. So you will hear of legislative changes that will impact the country. Changes that we hope will create a better opportunity for us to maintain law and order. Changes that are part of our 5-pillar crime reduction strategy. And again, clearly by now you've noticed that I'm not using the PowerPoint. But let me just mention to you, to remind you, because as I'm advised that you are here already listening to the minister, swift and sure justice processes, which is important for us to bring criminals to justice in a timely manner so that they can be appropriately punished. And I can speak as a former criminal prosecutor that the backlog in cases and the delay is one of the primary reasons why our conviction rate is so low. Because when the police, you know how frustrating it is. I used to remember the investigators, the frustration on their face when they have spent time to put together a case, come to discuss it, because I don't know how it is now, but we had a relationship with this CIB where we would almost be involved sometimes in guiding and assisting the investigation, so it was as good as possible within the ambit of the law. But a lot of the investigations in Jamaica rely on witnesses, and a witness is the worst kind of supplement to have in a case. Because I can tell you, as a defense lawyer as well, that if I take this lovely lady here who looks so innocent, no matter what you tell me, she couldn't do anything. You look on you. And if I put you on the stand, exactly, see there? If I put you on the stand, well, there's a reason why I called you. But anybody you put on the stand, and you ask them a particular set of questions in a strategic way, you can cause persons to question their credibility. Where were you last night? There you go. There you go. You saw her face. It doesn't matter what she says after that. But we all know she was at her home doing what she should have been doing. So the fact is, the police will tell you, the prosecutors will tell you, that we have to move our country to a place where we stop relying fully on witnesses and rely more on the evidence, technical evidence, forensic evidence, DNA evidence. And that is where we are pushing our country to. We have invested heavily in forensics. We have invested heavily and will continue to invest in building our DNA database, in building out the capacity for our investigators to present cases that will increase the probability of conviction. We speak a lot about cleared up rate, but we want to move the conversation to conviction rate. Because what we want is for every criminal to know that if you ever conjure the thought that you're going to carry out a criminal act, you must be bombarded with the reality that it is highly likely you're going to be caught, and even higher in likelihood that you're going to be convicted. When we have that as a scientific empirical fact and reality, we are going to have sustained reductions. Because I must tell you, it is so much that Jamaica has worst people or worst criminals. The environment that you are living in really dictates sometimes how you act. I have seen Jamaicans who I know throw everything out of their window, go to America, and the minute they touch on the soil, they are saying to you, "You're crazy, you don't drop that on the ground." Because there is, whether it is true or not, whether it is true or not, there is the perception that there's going to be a response to your breach. And that is where the JCF, the Ministry of National Security, and this administration, that's where we're moving to a place where we can create and maintain law and order. So when you hear the talk about state of emergency, it is not all about going in and taking out. It is about going in and also processing, getting information, having the capacity now to manage and regulate an area, so even when you are removed from that state of what was an emergency, you have a much better to deal with issues that may arise. Beyond the swift and sure justice processes, we have what we have defined as a crime prevention through social development, which many of you know. I don't have to reiterate the fact that a lot of our problems arise from the home and from the lack of parenting and from the lack of educational outcomes. And so we have a multidisciplinary effort to address those root causes of the crime. The third pillar, just to remind you, is the situational prevention, and that speaks to creating that environment where we can maintain that law and order that I speak of, the delivery of social services, the communities that are full of bush and giving the police trouble, because if the police are called at 10 o'clock and by the time they drive there for 10:20, 10:30, man run off in bush. But if we have order on the streets, and if we create a situation that prevents crime, then we can have better outcomes. The fourth is my particular area, which is rehabilitation and redemption. As you know, we have 11 institutions, 7 for the adults, 4 for the juveniles, and we are moving to do a number of things to reduce the recidivism rate. And of course, I know that whenever we speak about correctional institutions, the first thing on everybody's mind is we want a new prison. I don't want a new prison. Well, let me tell you, that is so far from the truth. I, like you, understand well that the conditions within our correctional institutions are way beyond what they should be. And so this administration is investing in repairing and in moving us to a place where we will be able to build new, purposeful institutions. Institutions that will be designed in the necessary way to create the kind of rehabilitation environment. It is purposeful designs. And you might have heard my senior minister announce yesterday that the administration is moving towards building an institution somewhere in central Jamaica. That institution, it is intended to focus on the highest risk individuals. And we will be soon, in the next 2 weeks, opening the 300-man facility in Tamarind Farm, which over a phased period will be moving persons out of Tower Street, which is the only institution that is now overcrowded. But it is so heavily overcrowded that it creates a very bad problem for us. And we're going to be doing everything we can to rationalize that population. The last pillar is effective policing, which you all know about. We are increasing the recruiting. We have a projection of about 1,000 police for the year, which is very ambitious, but we are moving towards it. You would have seen where there's increase in the infrastructure to house our police, as well as the introduction of polygraphing and other things to help us to raise the quality and standard. I know that Minister has gone through all of this, so I'll close by simply saying to you, thank you for giving me the opportunity to present to you. I started by saying that you should be congratulated. I hope that you can continue the discussion. These are positive, relevant, necessary discussions that we need to have in our country. Challenge the government. Challenge us in a positive and constructive way, because that is what is going to move us forward. We are imperfect and will make mistakes, and we need not to cow down each other, but to challenge each other towards the progress and the prosperity that we deserve. Thank you very much, President, and to all your members and to all your guests.
Well said, Minister. I've always said, and I would love to hear the Minister and one of his colleagues who went to my school, that's Senator Floyd Green. I'd love to hear both of them speak one day, you know, maybe on a debate and say who would beat the other. I think they're both good speakers. Let us give him another round of applause. We're now going to move in the question and answer session. But one thing that minister said earlier, you know, when he started his speech, he said, boy, my father said, and I thought he was going to say something where the father said that he said he behind them, very well ingrained about, but he did not hurt them. And that's why they have turned out so well. Right? He did say that sometime, and I thought that's what you were going to repeat. All right, it is now open to the floor for you to shoot questions, suggestions to the minister. I see 2 hands around the back, and I go straight to Mr. Horton.
Thank you, President. Colleagues, good evening. Welcome, Superintendent, welcome, Mayor, welcome. Excellent meeting and excellent presentation. I have 2 suggestions for the State Minister, Honorable Colonel Charles, and 2 questions for Superintendent Cameron. I was hoping I was hoping you look at the other way around. Okay, first suggestion for the State Minister. I understand that there are certain government departments that use drone technology, and I hope the Ministry of National Security is employing some of this technology in going forward in increasing the ability to get closer to the solutions in crime that we see. First,